Okay, so get this. You want a superpower memory, right? Like, ditch the sticky notes and actually remember everything.
Mm-hmm.
Well, you're in luck, because today we're diving deep into how to develop a superpower memory by Harry Lorayne, a book that promises to turn anyone into a memory master.
Interesting.
And the best part, this isn't about memorizing decks of cards or, doing party tricks. It's about remembering things that actually matter to you.
You personally.
Exactly. And so Lorayne starts by debunking this whole myth that some people are just born with bad memories. He's like, no, everybody has the potential.
Right.
It's just a matter of training those memory muscles.
Okay.
And he uses some really interesting examples to kind of prove his point.
Like what?
Well, think about it. People who can remember names and faces like nobody's business.
Right.
But they'd forget their own phone number if it wasn't programmed into their phone.
Yeah, I know exactly what you mean.
Right. And then there are those who can rattle off stats and figures but struggle to remember the name of the person they just met.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
It shows that we all have memory strengths, but we often neglect other areas.
Yeah, we don't work out all of our memory muscles.
Yeah, exactly.
Interesting.
So Lorraine's approach is all about creating a more well-rounded memory so you can excel in all aspects of remembering.
I like that. A well-rounded memory.
Okay, yeah.
So where do we start?
Well, he starts with the foundation.
Okay.
Observation. Right. He has all these little tests sprinkled throughout the book that are designed to make you realize just how much you don't observe in your daily life.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Can you give me an example?
One that always gets me is the traffic light test.
Oh, yeah.
So picture this. You're on a game show, the pressure is on, and they ask you, which light is on top of a traffic light, red or green?
Red or green? I feel like this is a trick question.
It seems simple, right?
It does, but I'm sure most people get it wrong.
Most people get it wrong.
Really?
Yeah.
Huh. See, I would have gotten that one right.
Well, good for you.
But I see what you mean. I think I just got lucky there.
Yeah. It's because we see traffic lights every day, but we don't really observe them.
That's true.
We're not paying attention to the details.
We're just thinking about getting to where we need to go.
Exactly. And Lorayne argues that this lack of observation is at the root of many memory problems.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
What other tests does he have?
There's another one about a watch face.
Right.
He asks if the number 6 is an Arabic numeral or a Roman numeral.
Oh my gosh, I have no idea.
And most people, after glancing at their watches countless times, have no idea.
You're right. I look at my watch all the time and I don't know.
And the trick is most watches don't even have a 6 at all. It's where the second hand is.
Oh, wow.
It's mind-blowing how much we miss when we're not truly paying attention.
I know, it really is.
He even has a test about a cigarette tax stamp.
Oh, what?
A cigarette tax stamp. Like all these little details that most of us completely overlook.
Huh. And he uses all these to prove that we need to be more observant.
Exactly.
Okay, I'm starting to get it.
And this leads us to one of Lorraine's key principles.
Right.
Interest.
Interest, okay.
He tells the story about a bus driver to illustrate how interest focuses our attention and in turn improves our memory.
Okay, I'm interested. Tell me about this bus driver.
Well, here's where it gets interesting. In this story, you're the bus driver.
I'm the bus driver.
You're the bus driver.
Yeah.
Passengers are getting on and off, you're making stops, and then Lorrayne hits you with the questions.
Okay.
How many stops did the bus make?
Oh, gosh.
What was the bus driver's name?
Okay, so wait. I'm the bus driver, so I should know my own name.
Right.
But I don't think I'd remember how many stops I made.
And most people caught up in the hustle and bustle of the passengers totally blank on those details.
Yeah, that makes sense.
But if you had been told beforehand to pay attention to the number of stops or the driver's name,
right,
you would have remembered them easily.
Oh, because I would have been interested.
Because you would have been interested. You would have had a reason to focus.
That's so interesting.
It's like how we effortlessly remember things we're passionate about.
Totally.
Our favorite bands, the stats of our favorite sports team, the intricate details of our hobbies. We remember because we care.
We care.
Yeah.
Okay.
And that's where association comes in.
Association.
Lorrayne teaches us how to make any information interesting, even the most mundane stuff.
Okay.
By deliberately creating associations.
Interesting. So it's all about finding connections and making things meaningful to us.
Exactly. And this leads us to one of his most famous techniques.
Okay, what's that?
The link method.
The link method.
This is where things start to get really fun.
All right.
It's all about connecting unrelated items through vivid and often ridiculous mental images.
I love that. Ridiculous mental images.
Yeah.
Okay. Give me an example.
So he gives this list of 20 random objects, things like carpet, paper, chair, window.
Carpet, paper, chair, window.
And the challenge is to link them together in order using these crazy mental pictures.
Oh, that's cool.
And the key is the more absurd and outlandish the image, the better your brain will hold on to it.
Okay, so the sillier the better.
Exactly.
Okay, I can do that.
Should we try it out?
Yeah, let's try it.
Okay, so we'll take a few items from his list and see what we can come up with.
Okay.
First up, carpet and paper.
Carpet and paper.
I'm picturing a giant sheet of paper unrolling like a red carpet with celebrities walking all over it, leaving footprints of ink.
That's great. I love it.
What about you?
Well, the great thing about the link method is that there's no right answer.
Right.
Whatever image pops into your head first is usually the best one.
Don't overthink it.
Don't overthink it.
Okay, next up, paper and chair.
Paper and chair.
I'm seeing a chair made entirely of crumpled up paper, like a giant papier-mâché throne.
Okay.
It's wobbly and about to collapse under the weight of whoever sits on it.
That's a good one. It's so visual.
What do you think?
Perfect. You're getting the hang of it.
Okay.
Notice how you're incorporating action and exaggeration.
Right.
That's key to making these associations stick.
Oh, okay.
Now for chair and window, how about this? A chair flying through a giant window, leaving a trail of shattered glass behind it.
Yes, I can practically hear the sound of the glass breaking.
Right.
And the image is so clear in my mind, I know I won't forget it.
See, it's starting to click.
It is.
And the beauty of this is that you can apply it to real-life situations.
Oh, yeah.
Imagine linking items on your to-do list.
Okay.
Dry cleaning, grocery store, post office.
Okay.
Picture your clothes flying out of the dry cleaning bag and landing in a shopping cart, overflowing with groceries, which then crashes into a mountain of packages at the post office.
It's ridiculous, but I bet I'd remember to do all those errands.
You would. It's like turning your to-do list into a wacky cartoon.
Exactly.
And that's just the beginning.
Lorayne has a whole system for remembering lists of things in a specific order.
Oh, really?
It's called the PEG system. The PEG system.
This one involves turning numbers into memorable words using a phonetic alphabet.
Ooh, that sounds intriguing. But before we jump into that, let's take a quick pause and let our listener absorb all this link method. Goodness.
Good idea.
We've covered a lot of ground already.
We have.
So take a moment to think about what we've discussed so far. Have you ever noticed how much you don't observe in your daily life?
Yeah.
And how about that link method? Are you starting to see how you could use it to remember things that usually slip your mind?
Yeah, I think so. It's pretty cool.
It is.
Yeah.
We'll be back in a moment to explore the PEG system.
Can't wait.
All right, so let's keep this memory train rolling. We were just talking about Lorraine's PEG system, which is supposed to be like the way to remember lists, numbers, speeches, you name it.
That's a good one.
I'm already picturing myself like remembering everyone's birthday and grocery lists without even like batting an eye.
It's pretty amazing.
So tell me more.
Well, the PEG system, it kind of takes advantage of the fact that our brains are wired to remember images and stories.
Okay.
Much better than like abstract numbers or lists.
Right.
So it turns those numbers into memorable words using a phonetic alphabet.
Phonetic alphabet? That sounds a bit intimidating.
I know it sounds complicated, but it's actually pretty simple.
Okay.
Each number is assigned a consonant sound based on how it looks or sounds.
Oh, okay.
So for example, the number 1, it looks like a capital letter T.
Right.
So its sound is T or D.
Okay.
And the number 2, it kind of looks like a backwards N. So its sound is N.
I see.
Get it?
So like 3 would be M because it has 3 humps.
Exactly.
Okay.
You got it.
Okay.
And then you just create PEG words by adding vowels to these consonant sounds.
Okay.
So 1 becomes Thai.
Okay.
2 becomes Noah.
Gotcha.
3 becomes Ma. And 10 is toes.
Thai Noah Ma toes.
Exactly.
Okay. I like it.
It's like you're building this mental coat rack, and each peg represents a specific number.
So instead of trying to remember this random sequence of numbers or words, you're having them on these pre-memorized pegs.
Yeah, exactly.
So see how that would be helpful, especially for longer lists.
Exactly. Let's try it out.
Okay.
Imagine you need to remember a grocery list.
Okay.
Milk, eggs, bread, bananas.
Okay, milk, eggs, bread, bananas. I'm ready.
Now picture this.
Yeah.
A giant carton of milk spilling all over your tie.
Okay, got it.
And then cracking a giant egg on Noah's head.
Okay.
Stuffing a loaf of bread into Mo's purse.
Uh-huh.
And then picturing my toes slipping on a pile of banana peels.
That's it.
It's so silly, but I already feel like I could recite that list forward and backward.
No, right? That's the power of the PEG system.
That's amazing.
It turns abstract information into this memorable and, let's be honest, hilarious story.
Yes.
And Lorayne even shows you how you can extend the PEG system to 26, 50, or even 100 items using additional consonant sounds.
Wow.
You can build an entire memory palace with these pegs.
Hold on, a memory palace? What's that?
No.
Oh, yeah, that's another powerful memory technique.
Okay.
It's been used for centuries.
Really?
Imagine mentally walking through a familiar place like your house or your childhood neighborhood and placing the things you want to remember in specific locations.
So I could place a gallon of milk on my doorstep, a carton of eggs on the kitchen counter, a loaf of bread on the living room couch.
Exactly.
It's like creating a mental map of memories.
That's a great way to put it.
Cool.
We can definitely dive deeper into the memory palace technique later.
Okay.
But for now, let's get back to those long numbers you mentioned earlier.
Okay.
Remember that seemingly impossible string of digits?
Yeah.
Well, the PEG system can be a game changer for remembering those too.
You mean I could actually memorize my credit card number without having to pull out my wallet every time?
Yes.
Okay, I am so in.
So instead of trying to brute force memorize a long number, you can chunk it into pairs and assign each pair its corresponding PEG word. For example, if the first 4 digits are 946.
9936.
We break it down into 9946.
Okay.
So 99 would be B, and 46 would be Roach.
B and Roach. Got it.
Right. Then you create a vivid image linking those 2 PEG words.
Okay.
Maybe you picture a giant bee riding on a roach that's wearing a tiny helmet and goggles.
Okay, wait. A giant bee riding a roach with a helmet and goggles?
Like it's about to enter a bug race or something.
I love it. It's so ridiculous. It's almost impossible to forget.
Right.
And then I just continue that process for each pair of digits, creating a whole story in my mind.
Exactly. And if a long number happens to fall into neat 4-digit chunks that form actual words, even better.
Oh, wow.
So instead of memorizing 20 digits, you might only need to remember 5 words and the story connecting them.
Okay, that makes even the most intimidating numbers seem manageable. This is starting to feel like a superpower.
It is. But just like any superpower, it takes practice.
Right.
The key is to consistently use these techniques and make them a part of your daily life.
That makes sense. It's like learning a new language or instrument. You have to put in the time and effort to see the results.
Exactly.
But speaking of putting in the effort, I've always struggled with remembering dates.
The dates.
Is there a Lorayne trick for that?
Absolutely. Remembering dates is all about creating strong associations and understanding patterns.
Okay.
Lorayne has this really clever technique for figuring out the day of the week for any date in the 20th century.
Okay, this I have to hear. Does it involve a time machine?
No time machine needed. It's more like a mental calendar hack.
Okay.
It involves memorizing a 12-digit number where each digit represents the first Sunday of a particular month.
So if I can remember this magic number, I can figure out what day of the week any date falls on.
That's right. Pretty impressive, right?
That is pretty impressive.
And he also uses the PEG system to remember specific dates like birthdays, anniversaries, or historical events.
Okay.
You could assign each month a PEG word and then link those PEG words to the specific events you want to remember.
I'm starting to realize just how versatile these techniques are.
They are.
And speaking of versatility, I know a lot of people struggle with learning new languages.
Yes.
Can these memory techniques help with that too?
Oh, you bet. One of Lorraine's favorite tricks for learning foreign languages is using substitute words.
Substitute words.
It's like creating your own personal mental dictionary.
Okay, how does that work?
The idea is to find a familiar word or phrase that sounds like the foreign word you're trying to learn. Then you create a vivid, often a ridiculous image connecting the substitute word to the actual meaning.
So it's like the link method for language learning.
Exactly.
Okay, I'm intrigued. Give me an example.
All right, let's say you're trying to learn the Spanish word for bird, which is pájaro.
Okay.
It sounds a bit like parked car.
Right, parked car. Yeah, I can hear that.
So you can imagine a flock of birds trying to park a car. Maybe they're all wearing tiny hats and honking their little bird horns.
I love it. I can already see that image in my mind. And I bet I'd never forget the Spanish word for bird now.
That's the point. It's all about creating those memorable connections.
And you can use this for all sorts of vocabulary. From simple nouns to more complex verbs and adjectives.
Exactly.
You got it.
This is mind-blowing. It's like Lorayne has given us a whole toolkit for upgrading our brains.
He has. And he constantly reminds us that these are skills, not talents.
Right.
Anyone can develop a superpower memory with practice and a bit of creativity.
That's encouraging.
It is.
Speaking of practice, let's take another pause here to give our listener a chance to digest all this incredible information.
Okay, good idea.
What stands out to you the most so far? What are you most eager to try out? Take a moment to reflect, and we'll be right back to wrap things up and talk about the real-world benefits of a trained memory. All right, so we've explored all these memory techniques from the link method to the PEG system, even the memory palace.
But, what can we actually do with all this newfound memory power?
Well, that's a great question.
Right.
It's one thing to memorize, lists and numbers.
Right.
But Lorayne goes beyond that.
Okay.
He shows how these techniques can be applied to real-life situations.
Okay.
Helping you excel in your career, build stronger relationships, and even learn new languages faster.
He even talks about all these famous people who are known for their incredible memories and how it contributed to their success. Get this, former Postmaster General James Farley was said to know over 20,000 people by their first names.
Wow, that's amazing.
I know. Can you imagine?
That's mind-boggling.
It just goes to show the power of making those personal connections and remembering details about people's lives. It's like having a mental Rolodex, but way cooler.
Way cooler.
Yeah.
Definitely.
I can already see how that would be invaluable in business and politics.
Oh, for sure.
Lorayne also talks about General George Marshall, who had this amazing ability to answer questions from reporters without missing a beat in his speeches.
Wow.
He'd field questions throughout his talk, continue speaking, and then at the end, he'd flawlessly recall and answer each question in order.
It sounds like a magic trick.
It does.
But it really highlights the potential of a well-trained memory to handle even the most demanding situations.
Yeah, it's about being present focused and in control of information.
Totally.
And then there's the story about Simonides, Greek poet, who supposedly developed an early version of the memory palace technique.
Interesting.
He used different rooms and pieces of furniture in his house as pegs to memorize information.
So he was an early adopter of the memory palace.
It's amazing how these principles have been around for centuries.
I know. It really is. It just goes to show that we humans have always been looking for ways to enhance our memories.
Yeah, and unlock our cognitive potential. Now, I'm also curious about how these techniques can be used for learning.
Yeah.
I know I've personally struggled to retain information from classes or books that didn't really grab my attention.
Right. I think we all have.
So.
Well, Lorayne is a big advocate for using memory techniques to enhance learning.
Okay.
He says that if we can find ways to make information engaging and meaningful, our brains are far more likely to hold on to it.
So instead of just passively reading a textbook, we can actively create associations and images that connect with the material. I like that approach.
Yeah, it makes it more fun too.
It does.
He gives examples of using the PEG system to remember historical dates or geographical facts. Let's say you're trying to remember the names of the 5 Great Lakes.
Okay, the Great Lake.
You could assign each lake a PEG word.
All right.
And then create a vivid image linking those words together.
Okay, so Huron could be Harry.
Okay.
Harry could be anteater. Michigan could be microphone.
Okay.
Erie could be earring. And superior could be soup.
All right. I like where this is going.
And then I'd imagine a hairy anteater singing into a microphone while wearing a giant earring and eating a bowl of soup.
It's ridiculous.
It's very ridiculous.
But I bet I'd never forget the names of the Great Lakes now.
Exactly.
And remember those substitute words we talked about for language learning?
Yes.
They can be applied to any subject.
Exactly. The key is to find connections that resonate with you and make the information come alive.
Lorayne even suggests using memory techniques to memorize things like calorie counts for different foods or the names of plants and flowers.
Wow, he wants us to remember everything.
It's like he wants us to remember everything.
Well, he encourages us to push our limits.
Right.
And explore the full potential of our memories.
But it's not about cluttering our minds with endless associations.
No, it's not about that at all.
It's about having a framework for understanding and retaining information.
Right.
And once that information becomes ingrained, the associations can fade away.
Exactly. It's like building a mental scaffold.
Okay.
You use it to construct the building, but once the structure is solid, you can remove the scaffold.
That's a great analogy.
Thanks.
It's empowering to realize that we have far more control over our memories than we often give ourselves credit for.
I think so too.
I'm definitely feeling inspired to put these techniques to the test.
Awesome.
I know I've often felt frustrated by my forgetfulness, but now I'm starting to see it as a skill that can be honed and improved.
Exactly.
So as we wrap up our exploration of how to develop a superpower memory, we want to leave you with one final provocative question.
Okay, hit me.
What area of your life could be transformed by a better memory?
What area of my life?
Is it acing that upcoming presentation at work? Finally mastering a new language?
Okay.
Or simply remembering the names of everyone you meet?
All great options. Whatever it is, Lorayne's methods provide the tools to make it happen.
He does.
So go out there, put these techniques to the test, and have fun with it.
Have fun.
Celebrate every memory win, no matter how small. You might just surprise yourself with the incredible power of your own mind.
You really might.